It is now 5:15. Call to order the Bel Air Board of Town Commissioners Work Session Meeting for April the 1st, 2025. Mr. Krantz, have a call to order, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Do we have, let's see, who's in attendance this evening? We have Commissioner Rutledge,
Yes, I am. Great.
Commissioner Chismar,
Here?
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
and Commissioner Chance sent us a message saying she's on her way, but she's not here at the moment. And Chair Edding, are you still on the phone?
I am still on the phone. I am here.
Outstanding.
All right, then. May I have next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
This is for the approval of the work session meeting agenda, Bel Air Board of Town Commissioners, April 1st, 2025. Commissioner Rutledge,
Aye.
Commissioner Chismar,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
and Chair Edding.
Aye.
The agenda for this evening's meeting is approved.
All right. Fourth item will be the Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Krantz? I believe that's
I have nothing to report at this time. Mr. Hopkins is out of the office.
okay. All right, then we'll get into the fun part. Presentation for the Bel Air Lions Club Derby update.
Give me one moment to pull down the video screen and we'll get
All
this
right.
started. All right. We are ready to go. I do not want to steal any of the thunder from our Bel Air Lions representatives who are here this evening to talk about the upcoming Bel Air Derby on May 18th, but we are going to start by showing a video. So here we go.
We wanted to bring something back to Bel Air as a fun family event. So we looked into our past and we wanted to bring back Derby to Bel Air.
Race day is finally here in Bel Air.
After 2 years of incredible growth and community support, on Sunday, May 18th, we celebrate our third annual Bel Air Town Derby. Families and racers representing local businesses flock to Main Street for a day of fun and exciting action. But Derby isn't just a racing event, it's an opportunity for community celebration in downtown Bel Air. So join us Sunday, May 18th for our biggest Derby yet. More cars, more fun, more excitement. Derby.
All right. There we go. And with that, we have Dave Gazach from the Lions Club.
Thank you, Mike. And also with me is Amy Biondi. Everybody knows Amy. Amy and I, and then Todd Boyle was supposed to be here tonight. He couldn't make it. He's sick. But kind of the three of us are kind of the three musketeers here with the Lions that kind of help pull this thing together and to run the Derby. But I got to give credit on that video to our producer of that video is Zane Decker. He's the son-in-law of Rick and Joan Sharesky in the back row right there. He's a producer with the TV show All Elite Wrestling, Wednesday nights on TBS. I'll give a plug for him. And he's the one who does the videos for us. A fabulous job he does. So it's pretty cool. So hope you enjoyed it. Share it out. We'll get it out to everybody. But thank you for getting me on the agenda tonight, and Amy, so we can give you a quick update on where we stand in the Derby. May 18th, if you didn't already know, is the Derby. Bottom line is we're on track. Everything's go. I have to say the cooperation, the teamwork with the town staff, most of them sitting right here, couldn't be better. It's quite a team effort. One of the things that's really cool about this whole event is it really is a true community event. We have so many people over the last couple of years and continue to come up and say, hey, how can we help, not how can we help? Right? And so many things, people are just donating. It's a true community effort. And so it really makes it a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. As you know, we have 27, maybe it may now be 26 cars racing this year. That's up from 20 last year. 2 years ago, we started at 10 cars, 20 cars last year, 26 or 27. Now, unfortunately, there's a couple of owners that their own calendars aren't going to let them race their own cars this year, perhaps. We're closing Main Street at 7 o'clock, thanks to Chief Moore. We're closing Main Street at 7. Actual racing, though, will start at 8 o'clock that morning. We are going to, based on our permit, Main Street will reopen again at 1 o'clock. We think we can get all the racing for 27 cars, double elimination, all that involved, done by noon that day. So the racing will actually occur 8 a.m. till noon on that Sunday. Then we have an hour for cleanup with the DPW team and all of us, and the ward presentations, those things, okay? As I mentioned, there's great teamwork with the team staff. We're going, once again, we're going door to door on Main Street to notify each business. We're giving them the information, we're giving them the flyer, we're giving them a little handout. They can do a sidewalk sale, work that with Kevin Small if they want to do that. They also get a free ad in our program book. Amy will talk more about that in just a second. So we're going door to door to inform every business, not just once, we'll be doing it at least twice. Doug and I will be doing it again tomorrow afternoon, going door to door on Main Street, handing them the flyer, handing them the paper with information, asking questions to make sure they know about it. Do they have any issues, any questions about it? And so now I'll turn it over to Amy.
All right. One of the differences in this year's Derby is we're actually going to be broadcasted by Hartford TV. They are donating their services to us. It won't be live. They're going to record it and then air it later because they're just not sure of all the logistics. Me and Dave and Eddie are meeting with them on Friday afternoon to talk about where they're going to set up. We have Christy Breslin back again to do our announcing. And again, we're using Miss Belair, who is part of 4th of July, as our official starter. That's just another way we feel that we can bring all of the community in on this one event. We're pulling in Miss Belair, who's a 4th of July, into this event, so we also promote the town's 4th of July festivities at the Derby. Like David mentioned, we've had amazing sponsorships. We're definitely in the black. Our title sponsor for the 3rd year in a row is Deer Creek. Their logo's up on our video. They actually just this past week gave us an extra $1,000 to donate to Camp Possibilities, which is one of our driving factors in the Lions Club are these children with diabetes so they can go to camp. So they're unbelievably supportive of what we do. One of the other differences this year is we're going to put our actual stage with Christy and our announcers right on Main Street. It'll be, I actually have a little map if you want to see it. So it'll be easier for the cars to get around them. It will be easier for people to see everyone. It'll be easier we feel the whole event will kind of move a little bit more smoothly with having it right on Main Street there. One of the other things we did this year that was new just last weekend, we had a clinic. So we had a Derby car clinic where we invited all of our cars to come to IBC and work with our race director and her dad, who has worked on soapbox cars, for the last 20 years, and just kind of teach them, this is what your car can do. It was an amazing community feel day over at IBC. We had 11 different car owners there. Their kids were there. The kids were running around out back playing together. Michaela was giving the kids tips. Her dad was giving the owners tips. I mean, I had many people comment, this is exactly why we live in this small town, because these kind of things happen. We have our test run days. Thanks again to the chief for letting us close down Lee Street for a few hours on April 26th and then again on May 4th to make sure that everyone is safe, driving responsibly, they're able to maneuver their cars, and we won't have any kind of issues come actual race day. I think that's everything I have right now. Dave, did you want to go over some of this stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretend I'm Todd. I wanted to say thank you to, Eddie's not here, and the town attorney, Liz Thompson, who worked together on the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between the Lions Club and the town, also our town permits and stuff. Todd is the guy who really worked a lot of that, so I want to give him credit for that. But everything is good. All the permits, everything's in place. So thank you, everyone, for all that involvement. A couple of other things we're doing on Main Street to make some improvements. The sound system, we're working with the Downtown Alliance and Angela, also others, to improve the sound system on Main Street so that hopefully that day the announcements and music and stuff can be heard better. We'll be working on that. I talked to Todd today about it, but again, unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. So that's one of the main things. And we're also improving the timing system, so it'll be better. The guy who was building that is sitting right there, Rick Sharesky, redoing the timing system again, and we're doing it. That's one of the things, again, one of the coolest things about this whole event is people coming out of the woodwork, including our own Lions, who have skills and abilities and interests to do different things associated with the event that we never knew existed. People, hey, I can do that. Hey, I can do that. And that's what's made this thing just commit. And that's just another example of how Rick is building this timing system with nice lights on it, it'll flash, to be able to see it, that kind of thing. So, any questions?
No, I mean, you guys have probably got this down to a T now with the, third round. Even the first year ran smooth, so every year you get it. I don't really think you had very many bugs last year, so you guys are doing a great job
When I
putting
went
this
home
together.
last year after the event, I wrote a whole page of things I wanted to do different. So I'm glad you didn't think that.
No,
I'm
I
glad
mean,
it ran
If
smoothly.
there was, it did run smoothly.
I felt like
mean,
that duck. You know how like the duck is like calm one, and then underneath I'm paddling? That's kind of how it felt. It was like,
Right.
I need to do this, I need to do that. So it's nice to hear that it seemed
Yeah.
very seamless on the public's end. And that's the feedback we get.
And this is a great event for the town. I remember, like I said, I remember it when I was a kid, back in the 60s when they had this going on. It was a whole big town event. And everybody came out to watch it. It was maybe even a county event. I don't believe Havre de Grace or Aberdeen had soapbox derby back then. I think it was only Bel Air. So they came from all over the county to watch this. So it was a great thing. And I did see your thing on your video on Facebook. That's the same video that's on Facebook? Yeah, okay.
And we have it on our website now.
It's on
Okay,
the website, yeah.
Yeah.
good.
Dave, you did the permit for May 25th. You want to do it for?
April Fool.
I believed him.
Nice try.
Amy missed a beat there. It was like,
Oh. Did you see my feet? I was like, oh.
Thank you very
So,
much.
are you getting good response back from the vendors, the storefronts on Main Street?
So far, we've only hit half of them.
Only hit half?
Just
Yeah.
our first round, but we didn't get thrown out anywhere.
Well, that's good, right?
Yeah, no, really, but it's been pretty good. You can see kind of a change in tone, better understanding what the event's about, and,
Right,
I think they like that it's earlier.
yeah.
Yeah.
true.
So far, it's been okay. We're doing another round tomorrow. Like I said, Doug and I, we go more door to door, but, yeah, it's a better reception. I think more of them are going to take maybe advantage of, the free ad in the program book, maybe some sidewalk sales types of things that they can do now, those kinds of things. So I
Right.
think people seem to be warming up to it. That's so far
Yeah.
the first impression.
We want them to be involved. We want them
Yes.
to be, we want to bring attention to the businesses, so
Right.
anything we can do, give them my cell phone number, that's fine. We'll get them involved. Any other questions, though?
I have a question for Angela about potentially bringing in vendors to be on the street to just refreshments, things of that nature. Is that something?
That's really for Mr. Cranston.
Yeah,
the town.
that's a wonderful idea, but I would not want to intrude on the Lions event, so that
Oh.
would be up to them if they would like to increase the size.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're absolutely open to anything that you guys want to
Okay.
do. We just want to make sure we're in
Well,
alignment with rules and,
in past days have been pretty hot.
yes.
Water was in short supply or whatever, so if there's, refreshments out there, whether some food or whatever, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there
Yeah.
to make the
And we
event.
don't want to take away from the businesses, right? Like, we want
Right.
people to,
That's true, but
yeah,
Yeah, we
that'd
don't
be their
wanna
first.
compete with
No.
existing businesses. We can't.
And we
Right.
do have Kona Ice lined up to come. One of the things
Okay.
we love about Kona Ice being there is they actually give every driver free Kona Ice. And then they gave every volunteer free Kona Ice.
Right.
So they're very supportive of local events like that.
This one is gonna be in the morning, not afternoon.
Yeah.
Correct.
In May, not June.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Chismar, I just wanted to also add a big thank you to the Lions Club. They have been so wonderful to work with, and the first year when there were businesses that weren't aware of the event and it affected them, the Lions Club has done everything possible to make sure that the businesses are well aware of what's happening. Communication's been great. They've also done the additional steps to provide free advertising and a Derby program for our businesses, and really have been wonderful partners for the businesses. So I really, truly appreciate everything that you've done, and know that the work you've done does not go unseen for that.
One of our Lions said something, Dan, a while back, and he said, there says something a lot about a town that shuts down Main Street for their children to have a fun day, to being a place where you want to raise your kids. And this is a great place to raise kids. I know, I have some. They're going to Chuck's program coming up in the summer. This is a great place to have
It
your
is.
kids. This is fun.
Well, thank you for all your efforts in putting
Thank
this
you.
together.
Mhm.
It's a great event, one of the highlights of the summer.
Sunday, May 18th.
Yes, be
Actually,
there,
is
I'll be there.
everyone, is anyone coming? Everyone coming?
Yeah,
Anyone?
I will be there.
Okay.
No heat
I'm not
waves
picking
this
up the
year.
cars this year, though, I'm putting them on the trailers. That's the-
No, actually, we
I
just.
did that once, that was it.
Yeah, we were just, like Dave was saying, Empire Taekwondo place reached out and asked if their teenagers could come help. So
Yeah.
that just happened yesterday.
Good.
It was a different one. Yeah, so we have even more coming. So if there's anything else, please let us know. We're happy to,
Okay.
yeah.
Let me please say that I'm really sorry that I was late getting here.
Do you want us to start from the
It's
top?
live. No, it's okay. I have a. No, it's okay. I am very much aware of how much hard work has gone into this, and how successful you've been in the past, and every year gets better and better, and I know this will be the same this year. So hats off to all of you. So much hard work, but so appreciated. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good evening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, wait for that noise to go down. All right, so next item on the agenda is our tentative agenda for the town hall meeting on April 7th. First, we have a couple presentations. One is Kite Day proclamation. As Mr. Kranz.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Yes, we do have Kite Day coming up on April 12th. And this will be, if I remember correctly, the 18th Kite Day that we've had. It was founded by Alan Alt all the way back in 2006. And God bless Al, he passed away last year.
Right.
So this Kite Day and this festival is in remembrance of Mr. Alt, and we will ask the board to proclaim April 12th Kite Day at the upcoming town hall meeting on Monday.
Okay, great. I know that's a great event. Big turnout. There's usually a big turnout there, and I think we ran out of kites last year, did we not?
Aberdeen Proving Ground APG Federal Credit Union was nice enough to pitch in again, as they've done
Right.
year after year after year as our premier sponsor, to increase the number of kites. So we hope
Right.
to have free kites while supplies last,
Yeah.
which is the most
Always.
important term, while supplies
Supplies
last. Because you're right, we have run out often around noon or 1 o'clock.
Right.
So maybe some extra kites will be able to be available in the afternoon. But
Right.
we do have a very big turnout, often a couple thousand people early in the morning. And cross your fingers for some good weather and a nice mild breeze.
Breeze. Yep. Okay. Next item is the Explorer Award presentation. I think that, Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and Commissioners. I'm going to give you a high-level detail on this, and I've given each of you a packet. The organization sponsoring this recognition for our department, and maybe a certain individual in the department, would kind of like to keep an element of surprise there. So I think we'll have a great ceremony at the next town hall meeting. But if you go through, the organization has an agenda, and I kind of numbered them for the mayor and for you all to see how they kind of want this thing to roll out. And you'll see that on the top page. And if you go to the second page, it kind of gives you an idea of what that organization is about. And you'll see the little pictorial pictures of a hat, a check, and a trophy. And it'll give you an idea of what we've already kind of been through with this recognition program, and what the end game is there with the trophy on what we're going to get. So they kind of wanted to keep it a surprise, but this will give you an idea of what we're looking at that day.
Okay.
It's going to be a really good night. Any questions?
Yes. No.
Good?
No,
Sorry about
it's al-
that.
It's always great to honor one of our
Yeah.
employees.
Yes, sir, it is. Yeah.
Especially with this kind of a recognition.
And this is a nationwide,
Yep.
this is nationwide recognition, so this is high level.
Yes, it
And
is.
there should be some public information people here from their organization. They might have a video, somebody taking the video, or live feed, if you're okay with that. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief. All right, next item is new business, Resolution 1248-25, which is the Town Administrator's Fiscal Year 2026 budget. Mr. Krantz.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Just an update. I shall say, Lisa Moody, our Director of Finance, and Edward Hopkins, our Town Administrator, are still busily working out the final details of the upcoming budget, which will be presented to you on Monday at the upcoming Town Hall meeting. So it's on the road to completion and should be available probably minutes before the Town Hall meeting starts on Monday. Hopefully not, maybe, yeah. But it is going to be a challenging budget, and we're working hard to have it ready for you. Let's see, the budget binder books that you're accustomed to receiving will be available on Monday. We'll be handing that to you at that time at the meeting. And the first session is scheduled for Wednesday, the 9th at 4:30 p.m., which will be the introduction and the overview as we get into budget season. That's all I have to report at the moment.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Krantz. Next item is Resolution 1249-25, Bel Air Planning Commission Annual Report for 2024. It's Mr. Small, I believe.
Thank you. As is done every year, the Planning Commission prepares a annual report going over the activity related to development of the previous year. So this report would be for 2024. Somewhat of a steady year. There's 4 new single-family homes that were developed behind Bel Air United Methodist Church, or approved for Bel Air United Methodist Church. Additional 30 new apartments associated with Standard on Bond, and that also includes commercial development along with it. And there's several other approvals that are outlined in your report. If you see anything in there that doesn't read right or doesn't seem, just let me know, and I can make those changes prior to review. One of the other things that I think I'm trying to recall what may have happened last year, because I know Chair Edding, looked at the state's requirements for the annual report, and there is no need to actually accept this report. It's just been done, in past years. So and it's in our code, so we would have to change the code to change that from acceptance to just filing it with you. So that's something maybe you can consider later this summer to determine what we
Determine.
would do next year. I
Okay.
know that Havre de Grace and Aberdeen both just basically put the report into their commissioner's mailbox, and, you know, that's it. So just let me know how you'd like to proceed with that. But as far as what's for next Monday, it's acceptance of the 2024 annual report and once you've accepted it, the town would then forward that to the state for their review.
Right, okay. We just we accepted it just last year, the same way, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Every year,
Was
you
this
go
the
through the
same?
same process.
Right, okay. All right, any other questions on that? All right. Next item on the agenda is the deed of easement for Tollgate Marketplace, the 12-inch sanitary sewer. The Mr. Charlie, that's you?
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. Put a little map you guys have in front of you. Liz Thompson and DPW have been working with the developer to turn over a 12-inch line through Tollgate Marketplace. It's TG 22 heading south to get to TG 13. It's a 12-inch sewer line, about 1,300 linear feet with 7 manholes. The town will be, the shopping center has, will be dedicating or deeding it over to the town and for approval.
Okay. Yeah, this is something they've been working out for the last couple of months.
Yeah, we
With
talked.
you and Liz and Tollgate Marketplace and the mall, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. If, for future development, there would, the mall, if they expand, would go from manhole 273 to TG 22 and connect on that map.
Correct. Oh,
And
that's-
that
would be
would,
under Business 1, right?
yeah, it would then not go down Baltimore Pike, which is an 8-inch line. So this would all be 12-inch then.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? Paula, you have any questions?
I do not have any questions about that sewer line.
Yep. Okay. All right, next item is Commissioners' Liaison Reports. We have any?
ECDC met some time ago and continued to discuss its impending recommendation to us regarding vacant property, vacant commercial property. What they have is a very good start that I think this board will be able to take running soon, hopefully, and eventually create a final product that'll get us moving with where we want to be in terms of filling some of those vacant properties. There was also the beginning of a discussion. Really, I just took the temperature of the room regarding short-term rentals, see what thoughts they had on that topic, and I know that there will be much more said on that as the whole board. I think all 5 of us are interested in that topic as we move forward with that. So those were the 2 main topics of conversation at ECDC for the March meeting. Angela, was there anything I missed? Okay.
I would just like to remind everyone that certainly Rockfield Manor's renovation and addition to the building is coming along really well. There have been some major hurdles, but looks like we've been able to address those, and it's moving along very well.
Do you think that they're still on schedule, you believe?
It appears so.
Right.
Yep.
That's good. Because they're planning on trying to reopen in, is it May?
Closer
July?
to the end of June.
End of June? Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So-
good. It'll be good to get that back in service.
Oh, we're hoping so.
Yeah.
The sooner the better, but
Right.
it drive by and take a peek because it looks great.
Okay. Jim, do you have?
Yes, so the Bel Air Historic Preservation Commission met on the 27th of March, and I attended that meeting. And so just a couple things. I did report to them about the status of the bill relating to the appeal process, and had reported almost verbatim what Commissioner Taylor had related when I watched the commission video after I made my comments. I thought, well, I got lucky. But no, actually, Paula saved the day. Chair Edding, I appreciate you giving me, a last-minute update on the fact that.
Anytime.
Yeah, so you really saved me on my last-minute request there. But they understand it's a process, and so hopefully next year, things will get pre-filed and maybe get some Senate support as well. So it's a process. It was late to the game as far as the hearing schedule went, so it didn't make crossover. I don't think there's any other movement on that, but
it didn't make crossover, but as Annapolis has a way of doing things, the House actually did vote it out.
Okay.
So it's back in the game.
Okay.
It's currently in the Senate Rules Committee, and the Senate Rules Committee will have to find some reason to vote it out, and it would then get re-referred to the Senate Triple E Committee, which would then have to find a reason to vote it out. So that is still itself a process that I just because it's back alive does not mean that it's assured that in the next 6 days it will get passed, but it has a much better chance of getting passed now than it did when I reported on it March 17th when it had failed to make crossover. My concern is that because there was no Senate cross-file, that the Senate has not seen this before, so they only have 6 days to push things through, and this might not be at the top of their list of spending time. They spent about 4 hours talking about 4 different bills today. Now those 4 bills, one of them was the budget, one of them was the Budget Reconciliation Financing Act, and then 2 were 2 energy bills, and of course the price of energy is just about the biggest issue besides the budget in the state of Maryland. So those 4 bills took 4 hours on the floor of the Senate today. I'm bleeding into my commissioner's comments, but I wanted to provide this for you. But hope is not dead yet, and it is with the Senate Rules Committee. And the good news is that on April 7th, which is the final day of session, I will be able to provide this body with almost an exact minute update of where all of our bills are, because when we gavel in at 7, there will only be 5 hours left of the legislative session, so stay tuned for that.
Okay, great. Well,
Okay.
That's awesome. So, yes, I've reported that, so they don't have any expectation that it'll be passed this year, and if it does, it'll be Christmas in Annapolis.
That's right.
But
Christmas in April.
so there is some work moving forward that the Historic Preservation Commission has authorized Kevin's office to start to work on some draft legislation that would that'll be worked out. That the general concept is this: they would like to take what is now a one-tier 10% tax credit system for when people do work on their homes and properties that are in businesses that are in the program for historic preservation. They'd like to have another tier that gave a real nice additional boost for people that weren't just doing the minimum of, say, replacing a window with the same material that was in the house when it came into the program, versus they wanted to take it, if a homeowner wants to actually take the property back in time to be really a restoration, not just a preservation. So to really create an incentive for the property owners that want to really make their property more and more like the property would have been at the time that it was built. And so to do that, they've deliberated upon this a good bit and discussed it. And so there'll be a formulation for a 2-tier system. And so there's a lot of language work to be done on that. And what they did last week was say, look, we'd like to put it back to to Laura and to Kevin with your department to work up some language, and then I'm fully in support of the concept that they've laid out. I've told them that I would certainly you know, be a willing participant in trying to do what I can to fulfill the commission's wishes on that point. But ultimately, it will be up to this commission to decide, you know, what to do on that. And there'll be some study that has to be done, and I'm sure Kevin will collaborate with Liz as necessary on, you know, does the underlying legislation give us room to be able to do this just as a resolution, or will actually be an ordinance amendment? And the HPC understands those kind of issues will have to be worked out along the way. And then the idea would be, once some language is worked out there before we bring it here, the HPC again will look at it, and if they, you know, wholeheartedly approve it, then we'll be able to bring it to a work session where representatives of the HPC, the chair and others, could come, you know, before us here and explain what their thinking is, and so that'll be a process, but I think it's a good one that they've been thinking through hard. I like the idea because of giving property owners that additional incentive to do some real high quality historic work versus just, you know, checking a box kind of a thing, and okay, I've got to repair this and this will be enough for us to get by, versus really taking that next step. I think it'll enhance that. I think also it can increase the incentives for homeowners who are and business owners who are considering getting into the program, to say, hey, if you're thinking about getting in, here's an additional you know, bonus to you if you get in, you know, and decide to do something really, really cool with that. So that's what I'm just wanted to give everybody sort of a heads up on that process.
I was going to ask, is there, because there may currently be a process for this, but in order to be eligible for such a thing, you know, we've got homes that are over 100 years old. You have to have some sort of proof or a picture or descriptions or designs that, you know, because you couldn't just say, well, this is our best guess of how it looked 100 years ago. I want the incentive. What's that process look like?
Well, that process would be that there would be discretion invested with the HPC and their expertise. And I can share this much in my short experience being their liaison, that they're very, very attentive to taking a look at old photographs and everything like when they're just approving a current request for work to be approved, plus when they're looking at whether or not a project qualifies for the tax credit, because it's actually two different things they look at and examine. So, you know, so with the expertise, you know, on the Historic Preservation Commission, on just take an example of wood, of siding products, for example. You know, there's a lot of siding products that might be, you know, aesthetically consistent with the historic look of what they're going to do. Then there are types of materials, and you get into the material science that they dig down into, you know, to do that. You know, so this past year, one of the things that they really worked hard on and collaboratively with the owners was on the old Methodist church building for Sark. So that front door project was quite the undertaking as to materials just on that front door. And Laura worked really hard. Kevin, I'm sure you're aware, but I just want to give her credit for that, worked really, really hard on digging back into old photographs and everything else in that. So they take it to heart. So the idea would be there would be discretion vested with the commission to be able to give that bonus. And I'm just giving, you know, one example. The language of it will be, you know, worked out with the experts as we move forward, and we can see what they come up with. I'm looking forward to it.
No, see, I kind of like that idea. One of the things that, you know, currently now is you are allowed to add on to the historic structures with new construction. How will that work with a, what'd you call it? It's not a preservation, it's a restoration. How would that work with a restoration? Would additions, or would you be allowed to, I'm just saying they should, they need to look at that.
Well, no, they've discussed that, and they
Okay.
discussed specifically the distinctions of new construction, and there's a different category for that. There's already a different category for that.
Right.
They're not talking about, they weren't talking about changing that category. So currently, there's 2 categories, is my understanding.
It's 5
And-
and 10%, yeah.
And so they're not talking about changing that category. What they're talking about is the category where you're talking about making repairs, et cetera, that type of thing.
Mhm.
When that repair goes to something, you know, that warrants that
Right.
additional bonus, that's what they're talking
Right.
about.
Correct, but I'm saying if you do a restoration, would you still be allowed in future years to do an addition?
I don't know.
I mean, I just think that they should,
No.
they need to look into that
Well,
as to how they.
restoration projects get approved all the time. So that's what they regularly do. They regularly approve restoration projects.
Okay, I thought you were calling this preservation, but anyway.
No, well, so
This
so
new
what I'm
category.
saying, but when you go, it's qualitatively when you go the step further,
Okay.
okay? To go back in time type of a thing, okay? And, that's, you know,
Right.
their jurisdiction is over the view shed,
Okay,
you know, in the first instance, but that, you know, nothing that is going to be proposed on the new legislation would alter anyone's existing rights.
okay, other
Okay.
existing rights,
Yeah,
so that
so
they
th-
could
so
still add
they're-
on in the
yeah.
future if they
What-
wanted to.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what so I just want to make sure that didn't take that out, because you want to be able to let the properties
No,
keep pace with.
you really, to sort of bring it down to
Yeah.
something like, if you take a window and you're gonna put, actually, like, you know, we had to do with the armory, you know,
Right.
type of a thing, versus a lot of the windows that have been approved are nothing like the
Correct.
old windows, okay? For a lot of reasons.
Right.
So, you know, my understanding is when you're talking about, for example, you know, the siding has been a big thing, and then when you get into roofing materials, that's a big thing. People, you know, have to replace their roofing materials, but what if someone said, hey, I've got the old pictures, this was a Shaker roof. And even though when the house came into the program, it was architectural shingle,
Mhm.
and now they want to go back to the Shaker roof. That would be like
Right.
the kind of things that
Okay.
they're discussing.
Right. All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of technical detail here that they've been fleshing through, and like I
Okay.
say, it'll be a significant process here before something is brought before this board of
Right.
town commissioners, but wanted to give everybody a heads up on that. And,
Okay.
you know, feel free to chat with members of the HPC if you got any questions or, you know, about it, because I think the more, you know, input, et cetera, coming into it, but definitely, I'm impressed with the level of expertise, Commissioner Taylor, on those kind of reassurance of it not being a willy-nilly thing. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jim. The only thing, we did not have a Board of Appeals meeting. The last, I think we addressed it then, was the last Planning Commission meeting was really all about the annual report. Was pretty much in there, so we discussed that last working group. So I think we do have a session coming up Thursday,
Yes.
and I believe that's looking at the trampoline park on the
Trampoline park.
park.
Yes.
Yes. At the Pep Boys. We're on.
Right.
Baltimore
Pep Boys
Pike.
had, their retail area hasn't been operating for a while. They're going to replace that portion of it with the trampoline park.
And it's the whole retail, so they're just keeping.
They're
like,
keeping, they're replacing the
parts and the
retail portion,
service.
but the service bays
Yeah.
will remain, and those will still function
Right.
as a auto repair.
That was my understanding. Okay. Any other commissioner liaison reports?
I do have one,
Nope.
just as a reminder, the tree committee will not be meeting on Wednesday, April the 9th, because Saturday, April the 12th, is Arbor Day and opening day of the farmers market, so they will be there giving away trees from 8 a.m. to 12, but they do tend to run out, so if you'd like a tree, you need to get there early. The other thing, they will have their next meeting on May the 14th, meeting as usual. There's also this Saturday, which I think is April 5th. It's on our social media for, if you need the details, but there's a vine cutting project. It's sort of a joint project with Hartford Climate Action and Hartford County Parks and Rec. And the tree committee was also interested in it because there are invasive vines that are strangling the trees in the county. And when I went out and looked, I thought, oh, how beautiful and lush and green. But it turns out that the beautiful lush green vines are killing the trees. And there were several that were dead. When you looked at them closely, the branches were dead. All the greenery was from the vines. So Saturday, there's a vine cutting event. If you don't have your own clippers, they will provide them. And there will be some refreshments afterwards. But it's a great cause to save the trees.
Okay. Anything else on the commissioner liaison reports? All right, staffing update. Mr. Krantz.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Just a brief update on appointed officials and committee positions that are expiring. You see a report in front of you that the Board of Ethics has 2 members whose appointments will expire in May. Bill Bolton and Teresa Roves have both volunteered that they are willing to be reappointed if the board so chooses to do so. So not tonight, but at the next work session agenda, we'll put it on there for a closed session to kick around your thoughts about appointments to the Board of Ethics. I haven't yet reached out to Sue regarding her appointment, which will expire in July. And I haven't looked at the Board of Building Appeals either, so. Moving on to personnel staffing updates.
Before we move
Yeah.
on,
Okay.
Mr. Krantz, so what is the status of our vacancy on the Historic Preservation Commission?
I don't have a candidate. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but
We
we
still
still
have
have, yeah, that's,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
We still have a vacancy.
To the best of my knowledge,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
I will nudge the gentleman who expressed interest to me again.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Personnel vacancies here at the Town of Bel Air. We have 2 positions posted on our website. It is the construction inspector part-time position, 16 hours a week, and the procurement officer part-time position, also 16 hours a week. So those positions are live and still accepting applications. So if you know anyone who's interested, please encourage them to apply. We have the Deputy Director of Planning position, which is, we've identified 3 top candidates, and we're reviewing those candidates at the moment, and we'll be hopefully coming forward with a recommendation to Mr. Hopkins here shortly.
Okay. Questions, comments? All right, that sounds good. Next item is the calendar. Summer board meeting schedule for July and August.
Just as a side note, I don't have July and August printed for you. We only have it through June, but I wanted to ask the board. In the past, the board has traditionally canceled the first Monday in July and the first Monday in August for the town hall meeting, and only held 1 meeting in July and 1 meeting in August, which would be the 3rd Monday, with, of course, the Tuesday work session preceding it as customarily scheduled. So if the board doesn't foresee any problems with having a quorum, we will, staff would recommend canceling the first town hall meeting in July and the first town hall meeting in August, and I will publish the calendar accordingly. Or if you wish
Yes.
more time to talk about it, we can always do it next meeting too. So there's no urgency, but just bringing it to your attention. A lot of staff try to plan vacations around the board schedule, and
Right.
this we'd like to decide sooner rather than later.
Okay, I mean, that works for me. That wouldn't,
That makes sense, to give people the opportunity to make their plans for the summer.
No, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Paul, you okay with that?
I am good with that as well, and of course, the first Monday in July is right after the 4th of July parade, which will be on Friday. The first Monday in August, looks like there's nothing really crowding that, but sure. I know we traditionally do this, and I'm happy to make the decision earlier rather than later so people can make their plans.
Okay. Don't really need a vote, but I appreciate the consensus. And now we'll go ahead and update the town's website calendar accordingly. And of course, as you well know, the board can meet anytime it wants to, and we can always schedule a meeting in between as necessary.
Okay. All right, next item will be under miscellaneous, will be discuss proposed indoor shooting range development regulations. I believe that's Mr. Small.
Yes, it goes back a couple of weeks. We had a representative of a possible establishment that would want to be a gun store, and then also, as part of that, have a shooting range inside, indoor shooting range. The town does not have a use category for that. So my response to, and the way the code works is if it's not in the code and there can't be some similar reasonable use to be able to apply towards it, then it's considered prohibited. That was our response to that person, and but I wanted to bring it up with the board to see if you wanted to explore doing establishing a use category for that. Just as an aside, this same person went to Aberdeen, they gave him the same answer. So, and research on my part, and I'm going to defer to the chief here in a second, research on my part is there's a lot of jurisdictions that don't deal with this, and I think it might be out of an abundance of caution regarding the Constitution, but I'm not really sure. There's several that just, I had a hard time finding ones that did not defer to their states. Both in, and you'll see in that little handout that I sent out to you, several of these have kind of just very basic rules, and then they say, okay, talk to the state. And they have the rules, usually about operations and how the operations are done interior to the business. That doesn't mean we have to do it that way. We certainly have the prerogative to be able to establish rules and regulations that make sense to us. I did, in the email that I sent out to everybody, include the amusement center performance standards. I know it does not make it's not even close, but some of the setbacks I think are appropriate. 300 feet from a school, 100 feet from residents, and then providing the Board of Appeals or whoever the reviewing agency is some broad guidelines on how they can judge hours of operation, security measures, things like that. And after having said that, I'll defer to the chief to see, because he's really the expert in this area.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of supportive of having an indoor range in the town, and Kevin makes reference to, and I think it's good reasoning to kind of concentrate on internal security, because just having the background in the county, I think that one of the things that one of the indoor ranges that I'm aware of, some of the problems or issues that they've had in the past deals with some of the internal security and making sure that the right people, that gain access to like a rental. I mean, some of these locations you can rent a firearm inside the establishment, and you know as well as I do, when you even want to purchase a firearm, there has to be a robust internal system in place to be able to check backgrounds of people, and it's called NICS, and National something something Security Background Checks. So personally, I think if we wanted to consider like renting firearms to people to like try out an automatic or a pistol or something like that, I think we, should have something in place to say, hey, you need to have a set of rules. This is the rules that we're going to kind of force you to make for people that want to come in and rent a firearm, do a NICS check on them to make sure there's nothing in their background to prevent them from having a gun, a robust instruction, safety policies in place, like a range master to kind of check the equipment that people come in with, check their firearms to make sure that they're safe, and to just follow the rules internally. And also, I mean, we worry about the tavern life. These firearms discharging, they're going to make a lot of noise. I think they have to follow our noise rules and regulations. I think that's another thing that we have to keep an eye on. And just preliminarily, just scanning over what the county has, it looks, it looks pretty prohibitive. Some of the rules, I think like 200 or 500 feet from any other establishments and things like that. But I think if we keep an eye on the construction and make sure that, they've built it, they've hardened it to make sure that nothing escapes from that building, I think we'll be good to go. But I think that's also something we got to consider to make sure that we do a very good inspection of the building to make sure that it contains the projectiles when they're discharged, that kind of thing. I think if we looked at the county and tried to incorporate some of that stuff here, it might, I don't think that they could do it. Although I guess that the one in Hickory, I guess it was grandfathered in because obviously it's very close to other businesses and residences and everything else. So again, I'm supportive of it. I think if we have a good set of rules in place as far as regulation goes to make sure that they have that they're very safe, and the noise prohibitions or noise regulations, I think if we have those in place, I'm good with it. Does that make sense to everybody?
Absolutely. I would imagine that the state of Maryland probably has rather firm restrictions on one's ability to rent a firearm, and so I would ask our town council to take a look at that. And my guess would be that we as a town do not have the authority to be any more lenient than the state is, certainly. Right. So I think our ability there, and pending a review, we can, as far as internal security is, we can probably either say follow the state regulation, or we can just drag and drop state regulation. I think our task, and believe me, that is absolutely the linchpin in terms of making sure that this works. I think our task in terms of what we have wiggle room to deal with, because the state has already laid out regulations regarding those things, is what zones we deem them appropriate and what setbacks we deem appropriate for the actual development of the use. I know that I was looking certainly at B3, possibly other zones. I think B3 makes the most sense, but could be persuaded that there makes sense in other areas too. My bigger concern than the zone itself is the setback. I know that there are certain zones where we put 100 foot setback on a residence. Well, it's not going to be built in any of the residential zones, so that knocks out that problem. But that's where my thinking is. I am heavily supportive of legalizing this use. I think that, quite frankly, it is a constitutional issue. I think that we ought to follow Harford County's lead where at least it's allowed. I think that this is a good thing to support public safety. Gun safety is incredibly important. People knowing how to use a firearm, people not feeling like they should be scared of firearm. A firearm is a tool. It can be used for good and it can be used for bad. And that public education is very important to me and I think to our community. So I think this is something that we should definitely move forward with, and I'm very interested in this conversation.
Kevin, I wasn't expecting to talk on it, but I mean, I had it in my head. Another thing I just thought of is the lead. We might want to make sure that that lead is taken care of.
Yeah,
and
my
clean it.
concern for today is just to make sure that this is, you're open to the idea, and it'd be worth both the chief and I's time to do the research into getting more information, because if there was a no here, you don't want to see it, then there's no reason to go further.
You can put me down as a yes as well. I mean, I think now that we've realized that a business came to town and we found out we didn't have any rules for them, so they can't locate here, we should take a look at it and construct the set of rules. We
Right.
certainly don't want to look unfriendly to guns. I mean, the Second Amendment is an important one. I think everybody here probably supports that. So I definitely agree that we should take a look at it and figure out what rules we should have.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm clearly a yes. Should be no surprise to anyone that I would be. You know, I think that as we, you know, study the issue, a couple things. One is, you know, gun sales. And because there are gun stores that sell guns that don't have ranges. And then you do have, you know, I took some great training years ago down at Continental in Timonium, and you know, so as part of and was taking other classes, and as part of those classes, of course, you know, the instructor is there's a loaner gun used in the training that is, I think, different than what you're thinking of, Chief, on like a rental. You know, when you're in the classroom getting trained, you get to step into the range and actually, you know, work with that with your instructor. I don't have any problem with that. You know, you know, I you raised a good point about somebody just sort of walking in off the street. They're not associated with an instructor, so they're not coming under what other umbrella there is for instruction, and they're just saying, hey, I just want to, you know, rent one of these guns and jump out on the range. I can appreciate, you know, that concern. When this topic first came up, I think I'd weighed in on for Kevin, like maybe useful also to see whether municipalities in strong Second Amendment states like Pennsylvania or West Virginia are doing. Of course, they all have to follow the same federal laws with regard to everything else, you know, on that. And, you know, as far as, you know, like I said, you know, basic environmental concerns with the lead, et cetera. You know, we have had, you know, privately owned ballistic facilities here in Harford County that are not open to the public, but, you know, handle a great deal of munitions, both private and governmental, experimental, et cetera, that have been historically, you know, well, privately owned, you know, H.P. White, et cetera. So, yeah, I think it's definitely worth looking into it, and you know, I would be supportive of what makes sense for us to do to make that type of business, you know, welcome in town, you know.
Yeah. Hey,
Just as-
maybe the police department could capitalize on it in some way too, you know, so. Yeah.
Just as an aside, if they were coming in and just wanted to open a gun store and was not having a shooting range with it, it would have been permitted by right.
Right.
It would have been considered a specialty retail, and they would have been able to open their doors. It's just
Correct.
when you have the gun range, which has all the noise and a lot of other complications that we, you know.
Moving parts.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. No, agreed. I think we should look into it and move forward with some of that.
Okay, we'll proceed. I'll work with town council and especially Chuck to make sure that we're got something comprehensive to bring back to you.
Yeah, I think that if we could have, not to give you any more direction than to do, but if we could have town council specifically take a look at what the state's posture towards the internal security is, to give us a good starting point there. And then obviously, Kevin, your recommendation regarding zoning and the actual use, I think that would give us a very good look at what our options are.
Sure. And I spoke I did some preliminary research, which is at the top of your, the list of
Right.
other projects, which has state of Maryland regulations, but I don't know if those are all of them. And those are the kind of things that I
Probably
found on
not.
the-
5 seems too small.
Well, this is
The
on the
whole list.
DNR website, and so we want to make sure that we're covering all our bases.
I didn't see, I mean, I did my check too, and usually I can kind of have an idea where those regulations and laws are. I didn't see many.
No, I didn't either. That
regulations
was,
in there.
and
It's kinda- yeah.
that's one of those things that's like, wait a minute, I'm in the state of Maryland. There's got to be more
Right.
than just this. So, yeah, we will come back to you with that.
And use the counties thing as a reference too.
Mhm.
It's a starting point.
Which
They've
those are on
probably
there
done
too.
some homework, and, you know, we may not agree with it all, but use it as a reference point.
Right.
You're a very optimistic person, Steve.
And, you know, we could also look at what Baltimore County is doing, because they do have Continental Arms down there, which is like a big player. You know, do they have anything other than what the state has? I know it's not a small municipality, but I'd still be maybe interested in looking, because I do know they've got gun ranges down there. Of course, we have one up here right in the county at Route 1 and 543, so
Right.
our own county's rules.
I will say from personal experience, I have actually rented a firearm from Continental Arms for the purpose of shooting, so I know it's permitted in Baltimore County. So that's a good place to look.
Did they run a NICS check? I've never rented a gun, so I'm not
Yes,
sure.
I seem to recall that yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that you have to have, I guess, if you're a gun range, is the computer hookup in the program, whatever, to run that check, because that's where you find out if you're a
Right.
prohibited person or not. Maryland's got a bunch of other things you jump through, but that federal prohibited person rules, I think, is what the NICS check is, which is actually the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. So it's like, it's immediate, not like Maryland's 7-day waiting period. It comes back right away, and then you can rent a gun. You can't own one, but you can rent one.
Right, any more discussion on that topic? All right. Let's move on to the next item, staff comments. We have any comments from the staff?
Just one that, and Chair Edding has already said that, yeah, Bel Air Farmers Market will be having its opening day on Saturday, the 12th, I believe. And starting at 8 a.m. to noon, lots of activities.
Okay. Last and not least, the commissioner's comments.
Well, if I might, I'd like to start my commissioner's comment by commending Administrator Hopkin for adding staff comments. I think that's a great idea, and I think that we'll be able to get a lot of use out of that, and we'll give a chance to staff to, you know, the staff gets a chance either by email or by talking to us to connect with us, but anything that should be made public that they might want to share with the public and or us with an open discussion, I think is a great idea. I already sort of jumped the shark on this a little bit. I was going to provide a penultimate legislative update. We discussed HB 1255 has cleared an important hurdle, but certainly not the last hurdle, because it did move from the House to the Senate after the crossover date. It has to jump through the extra hoop of first being reported out of the Senate Rules Committee before it's referred to its primary committee, which in this case will be the EEE committee, and then it has to get out of that committee, which with 6 days left in session, we'll see. You know, I'd like to be optimistic, but that's a tough timeline. But I will say, credit where credit's due, I'm impressed that it's made it as far as it has after crossover. That's a good thing, and we wish it all the best. And to your point, Commissioner Rutledge, even if it doesn't, you know, quite make it as far as it needs to go to get to the governor's desk, I think we've got a good game plan for next year. I will say, Mr. Krantz, I'm a little bit surprised it hasn't happened yet, but neither the House nor Senate version of the municipality election bill has quite passed yet. I know. I will say both of them are where they need to be. They haven't run out of time yet. And both chambers have passed the bills, which means both chambers should be, and there were no amendments to that put them in a different posture. They all conform with each other. It's just one committee chair, either in the House, I believe it's in ENT, or in the Senate, Triple E, one of those chairs has to pull the trigger and put it on a voting list. So that's where we are there. Once it gets on a voting list, because it passed both chambers overwhelmingly, it'll get where it needs to go. It's just somebody needs to pull the trigger before really Friday, because if it's not on a voting list by Friday, we might be in some trouble. So I will keep everyone abreast of that. Hopefully by the time we're sitting here on Monday and I'm able to give the running update of what we have, notwithstanding the final 5 hours, hopefully by that time I'll be able to tell you it's been passed. So that's the goal I'm setting for that legislation. I did connect with Mr. Small regarding the ADU bill, which has been significantly amended. It still will require all municipalities in the state to permit ADUs. We already do, so we're in compliance with that. One provision is that it does not permit a municipality from preventing the rental of an ADU. I'm not sure where we are on that particular provision, but I know that that's still giving some municipalities some heartburn. But compared to where we came in, it is significantly better. So we can work with it. We may not like everything, particularly the part where the state puts into state code that it is the policy of the state to encourage and promote the building of ADUs on all land currently occupied by a single family home. I don't love that being in state code, the idea that every single family lot should have an ADU on it. But that's just the aspirational language of the General Assembly. That's not a requirement, so we can live with that. There was one other piece of business I wanted to bring up. I've heard rumblings. We're so late in session, forgive me, I haven't actually checked the House committee to see if it's been voted out or anything. The Governor's Housing Act, the Fair Housing for Jobs Act, something like that, the Housing for Jobs Act. I know it's SB 430 in the Senate. I don't know what the House number is. I heard some rumblings that some members of the House were looking to significantly amend that as well and move it, similar to how they moved the Governor's Housing Bill last year. We are now later in session than we were when the Governor's Housing Bill got moved last year, and I find that there's probably less political capital to deal with this because we're talking about the budget, we're talking about energy, and we're talking about the blueprint education policy. Those are the three big ticket items that are taking up everyone's time. And for the Governor's part, he's got significantly, to my estimation, I should say, to my personal estimation, he's got significantly less muscle in Annapolis than he did this time last year. And he's spending a lot of his political capital on his desired education reform, on his desired energy reform, on his desired budget priorities. I don't know if there's enough gas in the tank left for that bill. So, hopefully, on the converse to what I'm going to tell Mr. Krantz on Monday, which is that his bill has passed, hopefully I'm going to come here and say it hasn't even been touched by the House. There is no way, no chance, nada, that if it hasn't made out of its committee of origin with 5 hours left on sine die, it's dead, and will continue to be dead at midnight. So I will keep monitoring that. I've heard that there's some attempt to resurrect it. Haven't seen anything yet. I think Maryland Matters reported on that there was some discussion, but I haven't seen anything. So we'll see. I believe that's it for bills that are of importance to the town, unless I'm forgetting one that anyone has a question about. But I believe that is everything to report as of this point, and I will, of course, come on Monday prepared with a comprehensive look at how we did this session. It seems like municipalities, local governments are taking more losses than we are wins, and I hope that our budget doesn't reflect that too much. I know that the state is really putting the hammer on local government. The counties are getting it worse than the municipalities are, but municipalities are feeling it too. So that budget, the budget was passed this morning. I'll finish with this, a more general comment. The budget was passed this morning by the Senate. It's in a different posture than the budget passed by the House, which means it'll go to conference committee later this week, and both chambers will have to pass the agreed upon version by sine die. There's no indication that that won't happen, which means sine die should in fact be sine die. The last day of session will be the last day of session. But there's a significant number of tax and fee increases, most concerningly a new 3% tax on data and information technology. And so I'll reserve any more comment at risk of getting too political. Here I sit as an elected official. But that's the outlook, and we will see where we are on Monday.
Okay. Commissioner Taylor, do you know where the sense of any tax or fee increases, whether tax increases, whether sales tax or income tax, capital gains tax increases, whether any of those increases will be effective retroactive to January 1 for income earned in 2025, or whether they're going to...
That's a great question. So that's probably going to be most relevant to the new so-called millionaire and half-millionaire tax. So anyone making over $500,000 is going to have to pay an additional 6.25% surcharge, surtax, I should say, and then that escalates once you're making over $1 million. This is very similar to the sort of O'Malley millionaire tax that led to a large exodus of wealthy Marylanders.
Yeah.
That led to a decrease in, investment back into the community. So they are moving forward with that. That's a great question. I haven't gotten into the details of, the budget's about 500 pages when you look at both the budget and the BRFA, which balances the budget. So I haven't looked to see if it'd be retroactive. I don't imagine that it would be. I would imagine that it would start next fiscal year, but you never know. We've got this
Right.
big structural deficit to plug. It could be. One other thing that I did want to point out, and this, I couldn't imagine that, because this is a sales tax issue, I don't think that this would be retroactive. The excise tax on vehicles is going to go up from 6% to 6.25%. So that's something to be on the look at, as well as commensurate increases on registration, tags, vehicle emission inspection. All of those are going up. And a new $5 fee per tire on the car. That will be $20 per car, unless you've got a three-wheeler.
Okay.
So those are just some of the things that we're looking at. But as far as retroactivity, I don't have a good answer for you. I'll see if I can find some more details by Monday.
Thank you very much.
Any insights on, saw in the paper today that there was the feds pulled back $500,000 or $500 million, $500 million.
Yeah.
What's that going to, on the educational side, what's that going to do to the budget?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and that is definitely a concern. I was watching the Senate today. I try to watch the Senate as opposed to the House, because the House, gives me medical issues when I watch the House. But watching the Senate, there was a great deal of concern regarding that pullback. According to some members of the Senate, a good chunk of that money had actually already been spent by the state, right? So that is, we were expecting federal reimbursement, we're not going to get it.
Right.
So that opens up another chunk. So
the paper said that was 300, the 500 was already spent.
right, exactly. So there's no doubt that when January 1st hit of this year, we were $3 billion in a structural deficit. Over the past couple of months, that hole's widened, no doubt about that. So my concern that we'll see, and this is just a concern both for municipalities and for the folks that we represent, our constituents, is that there has been discussion that not necessarily will the session get extended, but in the fall, they may call a special session. If things go from bad to worse to terrible, similar to back in, I want to say 2007, when they called a special session to raise the sales tax, we may see a special session to address an increasingly deteriorating fiscal picture for the state. So if the budget that they passed, which is currently a balanced budget, it includes $1.6 billion in revenue enhancements, right, tax and fee increases, along with several $1 billion in cuts. If the revenue picture continues to deteriorate, the state's hand may be forced, if they're not willing to make additional cuts, to look at more revenue, more broad-based things, and only time will tell for that.
Right.
But just to answer your question, Steve, I definitely think that if news like that continues to come down from Washington, we may see legislators in Annapolis use that as an excuse to
Have a
raise
special
more
session, yeah.
taxes and fees in a special session before January of next year.
Okay. Well, thanks for keeping us updated.
My pleasure.
By you being down there and stuff, it makes it a lot easier for us to figure out what pertains to us and what doesn't, I think. So, anyway, thank you again for that.
And to anyone watching at home, I will say, I rarely praise state government for efficiency. The MGA website, marylandmga.leg, is very intuitive. So if you've got a bill that you're interested in, you just type it into the search bar. It'll give you all the information you need. It's very easy to follow, and it's very easy to watch the floor sessions, very easy to watch committee sessions. That's the only reason I know is everything that I'm able to report out is just because I'm watching religiously everything going on on that website. So for anyone who's really interested, and they keep everything archived, all the videos, you can go and watch for yourself. It is really interesting to see what some of the folks from all different corners of the state have to say about the issues of our day.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioners' comments?
Well, I
No?
just wanted to thank Commissioner Taylor for the update on what's going on at the legislature, and I personally cannot wait until it's time to die, April 7th, and our meeting when we hear what the final report is. I appreciate that he keeps us updated on all of this. Secondly, I would like to tell the chief, thank you for everything you're doing. I know you are having a busy week, but you're always on top of it, so we appreciate that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay, Chief, has that been going smooth up there at the courthouse?
Yeah, everything
So far?
seems to be running smooth, no problems. Yeah, let's just cross our fingers and get it done. Hope it's
Great.
done in a couple weeks. Yeah.
All right, great, thank you. All right, with that, no other comments, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we'll just do, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All right. Do it the quick